Welcome back to the channel, guys. Now, GQ front end rebuild, so swivel hubs, wheel bearings, the whole shebang there. Now the diff center is in, so it's everything forward of that. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, it helps us out, much appreciated. But yeah, we're gonna get straight into it. A few specialty tools that you need. Hub tool, you can make your own, and it is in the manual, which is also a good tool to have for any job on the rig. A scale pull and a torque wrench. This one's 40 to 200. Not imperative, but if you want to do things right, they come in handy. But yeah, straight into it. So over here now, we are using we're not using a factory seal, axle seal. We're actually using a trail gear one. I've had a bit more luck with these. So yeah, first thing you need to do, grab some wheel bearing grease. You just want to get a little bit of grease. You don't have to do this straight away because you can still get to it when it's in, but you want to grease around them two sealing lips. Now in the packet they say do not grease around the edge, so we won't. So get that sitting in there. Now I've just got a extension and like a 32mm socket, so it's actually pushing on the strength of it, not just on the edge. And you want to just tap that in. Now we're time for our CV. So I've pre-greased the CV. I'll put the lid back on that grease, but I'm using Nylon Extreme Performance grease. It is for CV joints. So I'm just going to put a bit more grease on this little section here. That is the sealing face for that inner axle seal. Now what we want to do is it's easy with the short axle because there's not much weight to it and it's close up. But you don't want to rest too much weight on that seal. Like, you don't just want to be... And when you get it in there, you'll feel that locate in, and there we go. Okay, so what you're going to need now is your main hub body. Now I've cleaned all these up, blasted them, and coated them, so they're looking schmick. We're going to need to actually, before you do anything, now I have done that side and I stuffed up, because you want to put your wiper seals on at the very latest now, because one of them is a solid ring and you cannot get it over this. So get these wiper seal bits on. So once they're on, you're ready to install your hub seal, your main hub body and your swivel hubs. So we'll jump up, we'll pack our bearings with grease and push them straight onto these two caps. Okay, for these swivel hub bearings, not fully packing that just yet. Just getting a bit of grease around it. Sit the bearing on there. I'm going to pack it after it's on the spindle. So just grab a socket that it's the same size as the inner race, or not going to hit the cage of the bearing, but it also fits over the spindle, so you're not going to damage that. Just a few light taps to locate it, and then we'll take it over to the press and do the rest of it over there. With this bearing, I'm gonna just pack it by hand. You just keep rubbing it into that groove there, pushing it that way, and you'll start to see it oozing out the side there. You move it around, so now you can see that coming out the side there. But yeah, you keep pushing it right around. Bit on the outside, give it a spin. You want to make sure there's grease everywhere inside there, fully packed. Here you get our outer race into the hub, the swivel hub itself. So you put your cap in, your little grease cap. I'm going to put a bit of grease in there to help with us knocking this in. You want to get that nicely started. I use the old one. Now you want to gently tap that around. And you can hear that sound when you send it, when it gets home. So they're both in, caps are in. Put a bit of grease around that as well. Some on the bottom. And now we are ready for our hub body, swivel body, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So that goes over top. We grab one of our bearing caps. And this one, actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I've already done the other side. Because I've already done the other side, I know roughly, it should be the same anyway, what shim I need to put in here. So these are a 0.21 or a 0.2 shim. So you want to keep your top shim and your bottom shim the same, but this will set your bearing preload. So basically it'll give you the right amount of tension on those bearings for them to operate properly. So the specs in like your Gregory's manual or your Max Ellery manual of all your torque settings, all your bearing preloads and whatever. So you will need shims. I've done the other side, so I worked that out off camera, and you basically there's a trial and error. You put them in with a specific shim or no shim at all. You tighten them up, you torque them up correctly, and you test with the spring. I'll show you that in a minute with the spring pull. How hard it is, the what do they call it? Turning effort on your swivel hub. If it's too much and it's too hard to turn, you need to put a bigger shim in so it spreads the bearings apart. If it's too loose, you need to put a smaller shim in so it pulls them in further. So I'm going to use these ones because I reckon it should be the same as the other side. So your shim goes on first, and then you put your bearing cap with your bearing over top. Make sure they all line up. I also got all my fasteners re-zinced, so they're looking schmick. So let's get this in. You sort of want to get them all started before you put any tension on these. I'll get the bottom one started as well. Shim on and locate him. Okay, so all my bolts are in. Now the spec for them is 40 newtons. So we'll dial this down. Little tip, when you're storing your torque wrench, dial it right back to 0. These they've got a spring in them, so they can, if they're always under tension, they can be needing recalibration. So that's 40 newtons. And yeah, we'll just get them all done up. Top and bottom. Now that they're torqued up, give it a bit of a, just get them bearings moving. And now the spec is between 4 and 14 newtons. So I'm just online, and so 10 newtons is around about 1 kilo of force, and that's what this tool shows. So that will show you 1 kilo is up this top side, first number there. So we want to hook onto this steering arm, and as it starts to move, you want about 1 kilo. So that's reading about that's just over 1, so I'm pretty happy with that, and as it should be because the other side was pretty good. So we're going to call that good enough. You also want to do that test without your stub axle on and without your wiper seal on, because that will give you a false reading, because there'll be more friction holding that. That will be harder to turn effectively. So all them instructions are in your Gregory's manual, and you just need to grab one of them, and all your torque settings are also in there. Next thing we need is to put the thrust washer, a little bit of grease on the back there, not heaps, just a little bit of a coating, thin layer. Thrust washer on. There's a chamfer on the thrust washer that goes in towards the diff. You'll notice because it won't sit nice if you put it the other way. So now we're up to our stub axle. We need to put our spindle bearing in there and also our seal as well. So we'll jump up and push them in, push the bearing in first and then the seal over top. Our spindle bearing, just once again, a little bit of grease in there. We can grease the actual bearing afterwards, but while we want to just push that in. Sitting there like that. 32 or 30 mil socket is pretty nice. That's going pretty easy, so you might just keep knocking that in. Beautiful. Generally I'd use the press, but it went in pretty easy. So what we want to do now is grease the rest of that bearing. These roller bearings don't take much grease, so they don't take as long as your typical cone bearings. Now put a bit of grease on the outside there too, because we need to put that seal. Just a little layer. So this seal then goes over top. Once again, it's pretty easy to hit this on. I'm just using it's actually a bit of tie down rail, but something under the bench. Just on the edge. Just want to get that started and then work around. You shouldn't have to lay into it. So that is pretty good. So head back over to the vehicle. Now I'll chuck a bit of grease onto that end of that shaft where that roller bearing will sit. A bit more in there, that can go straight on. Now normally you would put your disc shroud on now, but I'm not. We need 6 bolts. Now I haven't actually finished with coating that. It was a bit damaged from the wrecker that I bought it from, so I need to straighten it out. I'm even hesitant whether I put them on, because off-roading, they can trap stuff in there, so it can be a bit of a catch-22. So make sure you locate your bolt holes Needs to be spun around a fraction. But yeah, like I said, if you do have it there and you want to put it on now, and this bolts over top of it. Now I'm using rattle gun, but I'm only just doing it to, I'm not even letting it ugga dugga. Just letting it pull it, just speed the process up a bit really. These are the same torque as your bearing, your swivel caps up here, so 40 newtons. We'll just pull all these up. Ooh. And then we'll go around and torque them up. Just like that. Now we're getting somewhere. Next thing we need is our, what would they call this? A dust seal protector maybe? We should have 3 little M6 bolts, well it might be M5s. This will locate in the correct hole if you've got your, there's a little slot that it locates in. But yeah, basically that little tab goes up the top. That should normally sit in the the brake disc shroud. So get these done up. This just protects the seal on the back side of the hub. Gives a little bit more chance. I couldn't find a torque for these, but they're not super critical, but you don't want to crank them because you will strip them for sure or snap the bolt. So just snug. We need to jump over and put our disc on our hub assembly. So we'll go and do that. Oh, we've got a big box of Bendix goodies here. You would have seen me frolicking in this on the last video of the brake calipers. So we need to find our front rotor. All right, slice them open. Throw the box away. Gee, I love new things. And you want to grab your hub assembly, pop him down there, get a couple of your bolts located. So they are between 64 and 73, so I'm just going to go to 70. 70, lock him in, and go around and torque them up. Might use my little pinion tool to torque these up. Best practice is to go opposite each other or in a star shape to make sure you're pulling it down evenly. Beautiful, they are done. So next thing we need to do is insert our bearing races. So there's 2 bearings to this, an inner and an outer. Flip him over. Same as the rest of the bearings. Bit of grease on your finger, just like that, just to aid it in sliding in. What I've done with these are a couple I've had in the spares box for a long time. I've actually buffed them down on the linishing wheel so they won't get, when I use these to hit others in or press others in, they don't get stuck in there. You can just lift them straight out. So handy thing. I've done a lot of these wheel bearings, so I just, yeah, took some, ground them down. But yeah, I like to keep them in the car. So if you get him started, nice and level around. And while we're here, so I don't have to come back from the press, which is a whole 6 meters away. I'm gonna get this other one in here too. Okay, now we'll cruise over to the press and press both of them in. Do the outer one, doesn't matter which one you do first. Pull all my spacers out, roll him over. That's him. We are okay, we need to pack this bearing, so I use this bearing packer. Actually, I'll use this one first. You need to pack both of them, obviously, the inner and outer. I'll pack the small one first. I quite like using these things. I think they're a heap quicker. Straight away you got all that grease straight through each of the rollers. So now I'll pull that out, use the grease in the middle and just finish packing it. Doesn't really save your fingers getting filthy, but I believe that it's a shitload quicker. So I'll just put that one to the side for now. Throw the big kahuna in there. You want to try and keep your greasy mitts off of the disc if you can. Always wipe it afterwards, but yeah. Drop that bearing in there. Now, this is the dust seal for the bearings. You want to get that double lip side facing the diff. So then that side there will be towards the bearing. Pop him in there. Now, I think this is actually a diff, one of the pinion bearings for the diff, but it works quite well for it's perfect for the outer of that seal. Just want to tap in. I like to get that outer lip, or sorry, not the outer lip, but the metal part of the seal flush with that hub body. Get a bit of grease on them seal lips as well. And we want to get a bit of grease on here too. Also on that back section. Best we can get that to seal. Just a light smear on that back. And yeah, you can put a little bit more on this stub shaft. And you clean your hands off a little bit, because then we are going to pick up this whole assembly and slide him straight on like that. Give him a bit of a wobble, and it'll want to locate back like that. And we'll bring our outer bearing straight into there. Just going to give it a gentle tap on the guts of the inner race of the bearing, just so I can get my locking washer, well not locking washer, but the tension washer, I guess, onto there. Use your hub nut. Hub tool rather. Get him up snug. Now I'm going to do this as per the Gregory's manual. I normally do it to feel, but that's with the tyre on. Now I don't have tyres on, so I'll do that later down the track. So with your hub tool, 190 newtons. which is a fair bit. You want to crank that up. The reason for the 190, you do not want to leave it at 190, is to seat those bearings and push them into each other. So we're going to go for it. That's 190. So now we've effectively pushed those bearings together. You want to give it a bit of a greasy mitts again. You want to give it a few revolutions and it'll be stiff. But you should be able to get, once it spins, you're getting them bearings to move and getting grease in between them all more. And you want to go a few back and forths. Now that is way, way too tight for a wheel bearing. They'll heat up and you'll be on the side of the road with everything fused together. So you want to grab your hub tool on a breaker bar and you want to break that. So you want to undo it. You want to undo it till it's hand tight. So hand tight there. Give it a few revolutions. And this is what I said earlier about having a smaller torque wrench. So this one goes from 2 to 24 Newton meters, tiny. Put this onto your hub tool. Now set this to between 3 and 5 Newtons. I've got it set to, I'll set it to 4. Now you want to, so that's 4 Newtons. Give it a few spins either way. And then just do that again. That just turned it to fraction. Now you grab your spring tool again, hook that onto a stud. All this information is in Gregory's book. And let me just quickly refer to what they want for that. So specify between 0 and 18 Newtons. I'm going to go on the high side. 18 Newtons is nearly 2 kilos. So hook this on. Let's keep that steady. So you really want to get the reading as it's spinning, but what it takes to keep it moving. So that's about 2 Newtons, just under, 2 kilos, which is about 18 Newtons, according to Google. So that's about as tight as you'd want to go on that. So I'm happy with that. We need to put our locking washer on. We're getting close now. So you need to line these up. Sometimes you get lucky, like maybe now. Or other times you've got to tweak it. So if you had to tweak it, because I'm on the taller end of my bearing being too tight, I would back it off rather than tighten it up. Careful you don't strip these little buggers out. They're actually, I think they're actually just a real small Phillips head, so you don't want to screw them up. Now, egg ring spacer. These will be manual hubs. So you need to put some grease on these or they will rattle. I've had that, you may have seen on the Air Peninsula trip where I had egg rings rattling and they actually stuff out. So you want to put a little bit of grease on them, inside and out, and slide that in. That shouldn't be too tight, you should just be able to push that in. And then you'll have the step ring next, same thing, put a bit of grease on it, slide him in. That will sit proud, but I'll just give it a tap. Wipe the grease off the outside of it. Now, what do we need? Our final, the drive of the hub goes on next. And now we just need our snap ring. So to get that on, you need it into the groove. I just use the Nipex because I can't quite see the groove there to get it on. So I put the Nipex over top. Just so you can see the groove. Make sure it's in the groove and not just sitting out, so you should be able to spin it, otherwise that'll flick off. But that's good. Now, you really want to get some feeler gauges. Once again, to just do it properly, but I don't have any. And to me, that's pretty good. So we've just got one more thing to do other than putting the hub on, which I don't have at the moment. Well, I do, but then to cleaning up. We just need to go around to the back side and put our plates on. Should be 6 of these anyway, either side. Now, I don't know where they are, but whether or not they weren't supplied, I don't know. So you've got a double one here, that's for your steering stop. So if you get all of these seals and whatnot, I put this down the bottom, so if any water or anything gets in there, it can escape. Get that on there like that. Do them up. But like I said, seem to have lost some bolts, so might go pinch them from somewhere else. Almost forgot. Newly refurb brake, new brake pads to suit new rotors. Give your disc a bit of a clean before you put this on with some brake cleaner, not degreaser. Slide that over. Locate your bolts. Once again, they need to be torqued up to a specific torque, 140. One last piece of the puzzle at this stage, and it's our brake line. Pretty straightforward again. This Bendix kit came with all the clips, all the copper washers. Pretty impressed by that actually. I've kept the other copper washers because I wasn't sure if they would be supplied. Pop him in there and then slide the retaining clip in. And that is how to rebuild front end of a GQ Patrol or GQ. So if you enjoyed it, please like it, leave a comment. Probably did something wrong, comment about that too. But yeah, subscribe, that'd be great. See you on the next one.